Hi, this is Tracy, and tonight I'm going to talk to you about how to spot a narcissist. Narcissism, or narcissistic personality disorder, is a mental disorder. The scale of this behavior can vary greatly, and narcissists could be your parent, your spouse, child, boss, coworker, or neighbor. For many years, people would only look up or educate themselves about mental disorder if someone they knew was displaying odd behaviors or had been diagnosed with some kind of mental illness. Tonight I'm here to answer your calls and to help you learn how to spot a narcissist. As a former victim of narcissist abuse, what I have learned will help you view things differently and find answers that you're looking for. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a therapist. I speak from a position of having been a target of narcissists. I don't use technical terms. I use terms that you'll recognize and understand. I have learned that people have emotional disorders because what happened to them during their childhood. These childhood patterns can change their lives forever. Events that happened are going to shape your person's behavior. And in that, you can be categorized into like the good guy mental illness or the bad guy mental illness. And those can happen in your adult years. One of the labels that have been given to the good guy behavior is codependency. I, like these people, are people pleasers. And we suffer from a lack of self-love, and we put others first, and very often to their own detriment. As with any mental disorder, there's a spectrum of symptoms and patterns displaying in a varying degree of intensity. Narcissist, sociopath, and psychopath are labels that are given to the bad guy behaviors. These groups struggle hard for their identity because they don't really have one. They suffer from an inability to show love and empathy for anyone. A popular notion of a narcissist is someone who likes to look at themselves in the mirror. But it's very limited, and it only scratches the surface of what narcissistic behaviors there are. Narcissists, sociopaths, and psychopaths live lives of lies, and they use people as a means to an end. Resulting victims of this type of abuse are called supply. I didn't know this, but now I do. What someone is used for as a supply can vary quite a bit, but the common uses are sex, money, control, and fame. Narcissists are chameleons, and they can mirror the characteristics of their targets. That's another word for people who have been narcissistically abused is targets, so supply targets. If you say that you like cupcakes, they like cupcakes. If you like to cook, they might like to do that too. If you compete in fitness challenges, then that will become their new pastime too. And what this does, it allows the illusion to grow of them being your perfect soulmate or romantic partner. Now, this being said, what I am talking about here is primarily to do with the romantic partners that are narcissists. In Dr. Craig Malkin's book, watch him on YouTube also, Rethinking Narcissism is the name of his book, and he mentioned something called the 3 E's. And these are things that we should look for when we're looking at how to spot them and what the signs are. So the 3 E's are exploitation. There's no meaning is that the action or fact of treating someone unfairly in order to benefit from their work, or the action of making use of benefiting from supply. They do exactly what they have to do in order to get their needs met. And this may include creating false relationships to get money, sex, and status. People are completely disposable to a narcissist because they're not capable of a real relationship with anybody. Their children, nothing. They are like 100% fake. That's entitlement. Entitlement is what we're going to talk about now. An entitlement means the fact of having a right to something inherently deserving of privileges or special treatment. A narcissist acts as if the world owes them everything, and their goal is to collect what they want without caring about who they step on in the process. You know the type. The third E that Dr. Craig Malkin wrote in his book is called empathy. The actual meaning of empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another. An impairment or inability to show or feel empathy. Doctors say that empathy is a choice, but that the narcissist is not willing to be vulnerable because of childhood traumas. My mother was a narcissist, among others that have been in my life. But I think I understand it more when I look at how she became who she is. Her mother was killed, murdered in front of her when she was 12. And then she was raised in like 26 foster care homes. So I think that was her way of preserving herself. We all have baggage. We all have something that happened to us. I'm not saying forgive them, because you can choose good or over evil, but that's what I figured out about my mom. And yesterday was the 1-year anniversary of her death. And so, getting a little sad today. Anyway, here's some other things you should look for. Narcissists have a very charming personality, and they use it as a form of manipulation. Everyone that they charm thinks that they are wonderful. But they use this charm to get what they want. And they get it from their families, the victim, friends. Love bombing is another term that you'll hear when you are talking about a narcissist. And this is a stage in the relationship, and it involves constant communication, compliments that are designed to lure the victim into, or sometimes back into, a relationship. This stage is designed to convince the target that they have found their soulmate. But the person that is telling you everything that you like is what they like, it's not, they're not real. And later on, it leaves the victim like searching for that person again, because I thought, oh, I know you're in there, you could do that. So that's what happens. Mirroring is the next step. And this behavior is when the person consciously imitates the gestures, speech patterns, attitude of someone else. They become everything that you like, and they convince their targets that they love everything that you do. It's a deliberate manipulation to gain trust. Crazy. Triangulation is when the narcissist manages two people, usually rivals, and themselves into a space where they hear bad things about each other. He tells lies, the narcissist, could be male or female, tells lies about each other to the other people. so that they can keep them from ever speaking to one another. An example would be like a man, his new girlfriend, and his ex-girlfriend, or a mom and two sisters. This tactic keeps the rivals from wanting to meet, and it protects the narcissist's lies. Watch my other videos for that. Hoovering. It's a manipulative technique, and it's aptly named for the vacuum cleaner, Hoover, that sucks the victims back into a relationship. During this phase, there's excessive show of emotions and grand promises as they use guilt to get back into the spider's web. The grand finale is something that you need to understand. If you know anybody that has been through a breakup, or just if it was with a relationship with a family member, that's not right. This is really a big sign that they have been with a narcissist. Usually the relationships that end with a narcissist go out with a bang. Crazy, unexplained, unwarranted behaviors that destroy the victim because of the horrific lengths a narcissist will go to break a relationship, but more than that, to destroy the victim. Divorcing a narcissist is often called a high conflict divorce. Again, if you have somebody that has had every trick in the book pulled on them as a weapon, that's another sign. And so many people think that they will have known that the narcissist was a narcissist all along. Most victims never know. Flying monkeys are when the narcissist gets coworkers and family and friends, and they con them into believing that the narcissist is the victim in every situation, but really they've created them. Now what this does is the victims lose their support system, and it's usually like the last straw before they finally break. Now, I should have said this first, but there are 3 stages of narcissist abuse, and they are called idealize, devalue, and discard. We've kind of talked about some of the steps that are in these, but I'm going to go through a little bit more. The idealize stage is when a narcissist chooses a target for many reasons, but to qualify as a really good one, they are looking for your vulnerabilities. I have a YouTube video on what the vulnerabilities are, and you should watch that because it could show you what might be what they saw in you that made you a good target. Anyway, it's also showing them what you've tolerated before. And targets are chose because of their status, their attractiveness, their job, their popularity, their success, or their wealth. Once if they decided that you hold a value as a supply, they're very vigilant in their pursuit. This is the love bombing stage, showering their targets with loving attention and compliments, and they will most likely tell you that you're different than anyone else they've been with. Okay, the next step is the devaluation phase. Victims of abuse are often unaware that this has even begun. Like your intuition niggles at you, and you know that something's not right, or something's changed, but you can't quite put your finger on it. Now, narcissists play a public and a private game, which really makes it harder to understand, because if you're with a narcissist and they're out in public and they're holding you on their arm and they're showing you off, and you think that's real love, but it's part of the game. Expressing your concerns to the narcissist will have them, you will turn into the jealous partner, and they'll make you doubt yourself. When he or she becomes cold and uncaring, like overnight, this is what we call when the mask falls, and you're going to see the real person in there. They start to make excuses, and if you don't accept their excuses, then you're deemed crazy. They manage down your expectations from constant contact to next to nothing. I used to call this like the darkness, and it was so bizarre to me. So intense, and then down. Often this verbal and emotional abuse is very hurtful. The last stage of this narcissist abuse is called the discard stage. And many victims say that this came out of the blue. Everything was fine, everything was perfect. And then the next thing, you get a phone call or a text or even a freaking Facebook message dismissing you in a cold and hurtful way. In the devaluation phase, the narcissist moves from hot to cold. And it's important to know that the narcissist will target your strengths and make them your weaknesses. And this is called a smear campaign. This is when their goal is to ruin you. Many victims are thrown into PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress syndrome, but complex with a C in the beginning. And the victims suffer greatly and try to put their lives back together. Now, as a victim, I have another book that I love. This one here. Can you see it? Healing from Hidden Abuse. It's by Shannon Thomas. It's relatively new, and I've been looking at her Pinterest graphics for a long time, and when she had the book come out, I'm in love with it. She has really good stages. My stages are very short, but I'm going to go through the stages with you, and if you have a friend that's going through this, if you are going through this, you might relate to some of these different parts that I'm going to talk about now. But the idea is to move through them. And if you get stuck in one, then get some help, because we shouldn't be stuck in victim. We shouldn't be stuck in any of the stages. We have to move through them. It's your job to take care of you. All right, stage one. This is like betrayal and hurt. And this is when we don't know that we've been abused, and a lot of victims at this point experience depression and confusion, emotional chaos, and feelings of denial, rejection, shame, and grief. Stage two comes, and something's happened, and you are called the detective, and you're going to find out everything that you can about narcissist behaviors and abuse. And you'll learn about the red flags and patterns and discovering secrets and lies. This is the detective part. And then you'll understand what made you a perfect target and how to not be vulnerable again. Stage three is the awakening. And I think I'm probably here. Survivors of narcissist abuse can now talk, and they've learned new terminology. I've given you some here tonight. And they finally start to put all the pieces together. For me, it was not just my ex-boyfriend. Oh my God, it was my ex-husband. Oh my God, it was my mother. So this whole pattern of recovery is really, you've got to put the pieces together. Understand, or it's going to happen again. Trust me, 3 times. The common feeling that victims feel is at the beginning, and it is isolation. But fortunately, deprogramming has started to begun in this stage, and you have a peaceful clarity that will replace some of the turmoil and allow you to transform from a victim to a survivor. I like to say target too. Stage 4 is awareness and recovery. This is when you have no contact, and I know that a lot of you are, married, ex-married, and have children with some narcissist, and this part of no contact is impossible. But there's ways to manage it and make sure that you stay emotionally distant and you set up boundaries. If they email you obsessively, then you must get the mail into a location that will monitor it for you. That's court protected and that sort of thing. There are boundaries that you can set with someone that you're still connected to and have no choice for children. This is the restoration stage of peace, and healthier relationships start to make it easier to identify toxic people. And the survivor learns that they don't have to stay in these relationships. I always thought I didn't want to give up, and I would keep on trying, but we don't have to stay. Then there's a return to living a life fully, letting go of the fear and whatever happened before. And the survivor starts to display self-love and is able to move forward. This is Tracy, and those are some of the signs on how you can spot a narcissist. That's all I got. Thank you.